This is our video for the 9.3 notes, just looking at parallelograms. So the area of a parallelogram can be found by using just base times height. The base is any side, and the height is yet again the altitude from the base to the opposite side. So again, the height and the base are still forming the right angle together. So the height could be anywhere from one base to the other that makes a right angle. However, where I just drew that altitude, that height, isn't super helpful. What I want to do is draw it somewhere like this, or maybe like that. And hopefully you see why, because we're creating right triangles on either end. So when you have to draw your own height in, make sure you're purposely placing it so that you can get a right angle. So let's look at number 1. Our goal here is just to get the base and the height. So look for your right angle, because your base and your height always form the right angle together. So here is the height in purple, and here is the base in blue. The issue is we do not have the entire base. We only have part of it. We're still missing this part. I'll call it X. So what we need to do is use this green right triangle at the bottom here. We know 2 of the sides, and we need the 3rd side. So we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. So we have side squared plus side squared equals hypotenuse squared. So this is 4 squared and root 2 squared. So 16 times 2 is 32. And that is a plus sign there. And 5 root 2 squared is 25 times 2, which is 50. This ends up being 3 root 2. So I'm going through that a little faster because we know Pythagorean theorem at this point. All right, so now the entire base is 7 root 2 plus 3 root 2. Remember, when you are adding square roots, it follows the same type of rules as variables would. So if this was, just pretend, if this was 7x and 3x, we would say in total it's 10x. Well, it works very similar. Instead, it's 7 root 2 plus 3 root 2, which means we have 10 root 2 as the base. So now our area formula is just base times height. So this is 10 root 2 times 4 root 2. 10 times 4 is 40. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. 40 times 2 is 80 square feet. Nice. Now, for number 2, the height is not drawn in for us, so we are going to have to draw it in. And remember to purposely draw it so that it is creating a right triangle. The other thing to remember about parallelograms is that your opposite angles are congruent, and your consecutive angles are supplementary. So that means this angle has to be 135 and these have to be 45. So what I'm going to do is, I noticed that I have 2 of the sides, 18 and 6, and I have, all of my angles at this point. So I'm going to draw my height over here so that I can use this green right triangle. And it happens to be a 45-45, and I know what the hypotenuse is, and I need to go to the leg. And in order to do that, we need to divide by root 2. So I have 6 divided by root 2. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by root 2. So this is 6 root 2 over 2, which simplifies to 3 root 2. So since this is a 45, 45, 90, both of the legs are the same. So now we just figured out that the height is 13 root 2, and the base has to form a right angle with the height. And we were already told that these two sides are 18. So our base is 18. Our height is 3 root 2. Base times height is 54 root 2 squared inches.